part 32 of sharing my story on here because it's so much easier than writing another book. 8 weeks postpartum with my 5th child, and it is like early 2011, and I am on my way flying from Portland, Oregon to Dallas, Texas for this big like street fair event. So imagine a pride parade in the middle of blocked off streets and a street party, and it was amazing. I'm also about 6 or 7 years into being a Christian, and this feels so out of the box for me because I had been living this very square, normal Christian life. And I'm consulting with this nonprofit out of Connecticut and going to this big event in Dallas. And I had gotten that consulting client. Really, I was just like advising for them because I had been working on this big awareness project called American Innocence, where we were building like a full immersion experience, which is pretty common now, but in 2010, 11, it was like a new idea. And so it was an immersion experience as to like how someone could be trafficked, like what were the signs, what was the grooming leading up to it, because everyone was just saying, oh, it doesn't even happen here. And they just really, the movement hadn't connected that what we see on the streets, what we see on the internet is the industry. And some people in the industry are there willingly and other people are trafficked. And the only way to really know is to talk to them, but they're scared to talk to them. And so they just automatically deem, oh, they're all trafficked, they're all bad, they're all something. No one could possibly want to do this, like to earn money. Never mind, it's the only industry in the entire world that women outperform men. Oh, there's so much to talk about on that. Anyway, I am doing this, creating this immersion experience based on like what trafficking really is and what it looks like and how culture and society set us up for the exploitation of our own bodies, which is what happens in every industry. Oh, thank you, capitalism. Anywho, I am doing this project. I start consulting with this company. I go to Dallas, and it is rocking my world because I'm running a booth in the middle of this amazing street fair, and the people are so kind, as I knew they would be, because queens are always kind. The entire LGBTQ community like is the most loving community, or it was in my experience, like in the 90s when I was independent and hanging out on Capitol Hill, because I'd always been bi and just kind of like forgot about that while I was a Christian. And so I'm doing this event and I'm hugging queens all night and just sharing bits and pieces of my story. And all of these things are flooding in like memories of, wow, maybe these sins aren't as sinful. Like, how can someone be so kind when many times when I'd speak at churches, they were just much more hateful and judgmental. And I'm seeing this huge, like, conflict. I'm like, why? Why is this existing in this way? And God, I had these times when I was young and in gangs, before I had changed my name, before Trafficked, before Martin, where I was doing makeup for queens in like before shows. That was like my first real bar experience. I was like 16 years old and I was doing makeup for queens. And so I had this time where I had like I had witnessed behind the scenes of what people are really like. And so when you see the conflict between, generally, I mean, there's always drama everywhere because people are people, but there's a lot more kindness in communities that are more accepting than there is within the church. And all of this was just kind of brewing inside of me, and I'm just mulling and observing, collecting data, trying to understand life. And all night for like 7-8 hours, I'm just hugging one queen after another. And it was the best night ever. and the most humiliating night, because when I got back to this beautiful home that I was staying in, where I had my entire own suite, I realized that I had been leaking breast milk like all the way to my knees. I was soaked, and I had hugged so many people that night, and I remember just sitting on the edge of the bed going, what the fuck? What kind of a life is this? Like, what is going on in me? Like, how, this is not normal. This is not a normal life. Like, I'm a mom of 5 and I'm gallivanting across the country and hugging queens and breast milk, and that the Christianity, like all of these polarities were just boiling in me. And I was only doing consulting at this time. A lot of people had been like, you need to start a nonprofit, you need to do this. And I really didn't want to. I wish I would have listened to myself. I didn't want to start a nonprofit because I like money and I like paying my bills, and nonprofit work is tireless. And I didn't fully understand yet what I would soon. Reed is also playing the best husband in the universe type game. He is like man of the year. Everybody adores him and worships him. And he's so like passive and kind, and it helps that he's 6'6", so he kind of has this energy of like, he's like a big Viking, and he'll take care of you, and it's warm and inviting, and he's just so perfect. And I didn't clock what that was till much later, but it was like everybody around me was just enforcing this idea of how perfect Reed is, so I never really questioned him, which is super important, because behind the scenes, he wouldn't say anything like bad to me, but he would ask a lot of questions. Like, there was this entire season where he would say, you know, are you sure you're not a sociopath? Because you just don't feel the way other people feel. And he would just ask me, are you sure you're not this way? And I don't know what happened this one day. I ended up getting so angry, and it probably wasn't connected to the sociopath thing, separate story. And I have told this story a few hundred times, because it's my story of dealing with my own rage. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I was like, that story's really fucked up. And so there was this day, and the kids were little, and I was cooking dinner in the kitchen, and I was chopping veggies, and I had, of course, a great big knife, I'm chopping, and something happened, and I got so angry. I turned the knife on its side, and I started whacking it against the butcher block, because I was just furious, and the tip of the knife flew off, hit the window, and I broke. And Reed said to me, if I don't get control of my rage, I will never see the kids again. And I started working on my anger and rage, and that was really a breaking point where I broke into submission. I broke this part of me that I lost my rage. I lost there's something wrong here that needs to change, because what I had done, I felt so guilty about whacking that knife that I was just like, I am wrong. He is right. And I really learned how to temper my nervous system and my anger and repress things. And that is very not good and not healthy. Years later, I realized, what did he say that makes me that angry? Because I'm really not an angry person. I've never been an angry person. He said something that pissed me off so bad that I needed to be angry, and then he used that as a way to silence me. And we're still church hopping, because I'm struggling to find a church that can even accept my radical views of being kind and compassionate and loving. And they've dealt with their own integrity issues of, oh, are they exploiting people? Oh, are they minimizing abuse in the church? So we're church hopping a lot, trying to figure out where our place is. Oh, and back to the couponing business, because don't you know the sucker that I paid $5,000 to build my website? Oh, he did some scandalous shit.